The film starts with a kid named Jacob who's trying to survive after his ship is wrecked by a giant sea monster. Decades after this incident, Maisie is busy telling other kids in her orphanage about how the monsters used to cause chaos for humans, but it all changed after hunters began taking them out. The greatest hunting ship in history is called the Invincible, and its Captain Crow is a living legend. Maisie is very enthusiastic about the hunters, but her story is cut short when a maid asks all the kids to go to sleep. Every child in this orphanage had parents who died while hunting, and Maisie plans to follow in the footsteps of her dead parents. So she sneaks out of the orphanage and runs to the ocean to become a monster hunter. She's looking for the Invincible, which is at sea hunting for a monster known as the Red Bluster. Jacob, who's a young man now, is the second in command on this ship. After their target is in sight, he meets Captain Crow, who wants to finally catch the most dreaded monster in the history of mankind. His passion is shared by another crewmate named Sarah, who offers them a drink. However, Crow has to take his attention away from the bluster because another hunting ship is under attack. He thinks about leaving those hunters to their fate, but Jacob reminds them of their code, which requires them to help their fellow hunters. Jacob's words force the captain to turn around and help the other ship, which is about to sink. Crow uses flares to lure the monster into the deep sea. Meanwhile, Jacob prepares the cannons and leads the attack. They fire multiple shots at the tentacled beast, but it's the arrows that really hurt it, and it goes underwater. Jacob attaches a float to its body, but after saving a crewmate, he realizes that the monster has cut the float. The birds which usually follow the monsters tell them that it's under their ship. They don't even get a chance to react before the tentacles grab the ship and everyone has to find cover. Once again, Jacob helps out his crewmates by cutting off tentacles. He even lands a clean shot at the monster's head, but a giant tentacle throws him into the sea where the monster tries to eat him. Somehow, Jacob escapes its jaws, and by grabbing onto its body, he manages to stay alive. Crow, on the other hand, sees an opportunity, and he grabs a lance and shoves it into the heart of the green beast. The monster immediately begins to drown, and Crow goes down with it to cut off its horn. But before he can get to the surface, the monster grabs him and takes him down with it. Crow thinks it's the end for him, but he eventually wakes up on his ship. He's really shaken and doesn't put up a fight when Sarah suggests they go back to the shore to repair the ship. That afternoon, Jacob is getting some treatment for his wounds when he notices that the crew morale is really low. He gives a fiery speech about how they are saving lives by fighting off these monsters. His words do the magic, and the crew once again feels motivated. He then goes to the captain, who still wants to chase the Red Bluster, but he is worried about what will happen to the Invincible after he's gone. He explains how his family has used the ship to save people for generations. And the day he saved Jacob from the ocean, he decided to raise him as his own child, so that one day he can inherit the ship. These words mean a lot to Jacob, and he accepts the offer gladly. After a few days, the ship finally reaches the shore where people are excited to see it. Maisie is also in the crowd, and she follows Jacob as he joins a huge drinking fest. She sneaks into the bar, and after learning that Maisie's parents died on a ship called the Monarch, he decides to pay attention to her. However, she wants to join his crew, and he doesn't want her to put her life in danger. So he grabs her and pays a cart rider to take her straight back to the orphanage. The next day, he joins Crow as they take the horn to the Imperial Palace. The king is happy to see what they brought, but the queen is mad since Crow let the Red Bluster escape while trying to save other hunters. She tells him that the crown has decided to stop hiring the hunters. Instead, they have given Admiral Eric a giant ship called the Imperator to annihilate every monster in the sea. The ship looks impressive, but Crow tells them that it's too heavy and won't be able to survive a giant monster attack. He even picks up a fight with the Admiral and almost gets arrested, but Jacob steps in and asks the king to give them another chance to catch the Red Bluster. The king likes them, so he starts a contest between Crow and the Admiral to see who can catch the legendary monster first. After this announcement, Crow immediately takes his ship back to the sea and tells his crew that they will chase the Red Bluster to the edge of the known world. He also announces that after him, Jacob will be responsible for leading them. The crew starts cheering for Jacob, but they stop after finding Maisie hiding inside a barrel. She's brought in front of the captain, who likes her enthusiasm and orders Sarah to brief her. Sarah takes her to a room and tells her to obey Crow at all costs. She's acting strict, but Maisie is just amazed by how cool she is. That afternoon, Jacob and Crow are waiting for the red bluster after firing some flares when Maisie joins them on the deck. She's waving her knife and Crow tells her to get some sleep. As soon as she leaves, however, the ship starts shaking. The birds tell the captain that the red bluster is coming for them. The crew instantly begins preparing for battle, but Jacob has to leave the deck to take Maisie back to her room. Meanwhile, Crow successfully attacks the monster by firing all the cannons at it. He then hooks his ship to the beast, and soon they are being dragged by it. Crow is certain that he will catch his prized prey this time around, but the monster creates a giant whirlpool that is sucking the entire ship into the depths of the ocean. Jacob knows that they have to free the ship, but it's actually Maisie who starts cutting down the rope. Crow orders her to stop, and Jacob even grabs her knife, but she disobeys orders and saves the ship by cutting the monster free. However, she ends up falling into the water alongside Jacob. While underwater, they are mesmerized to see the red bluster staring at them. After it leaves, they swim to the surface and climb into a small boat. Crow is furious at Maisie, but Jacob believes she did the right thing. They're arguing when suddenly the monster swallows the entire boat and vanishes. Jacob and Maisie find themselves inside the mouth of the beast. They are sure that they're going to die, but Jacob doesn't want to lose hope. He climbs into the monster's nasal cavity and helps Maisie get there as well. They spend the night in there, and the next morning they realize that the bluster is taking them to an island. Jacob grabs the spear and decides to slay it, but the beast blows its nose and he goes flying out. Soon, a game starts where Jacob's trying to slay the monster while Maisie is trying to keep him alive. She notices that the red beast isn't trying to eat them. She tries to stop Jacob, who is running towards the red bluster, but the beast just creates a giant wave that pushes them both back to the shore. They can see the bluster entering the island, and they decide to find some shelter. That evening, Maisie wonders if the monsters really did kill humans on land, as the books claim. Jacob completely believes all those stories and even gets mad at Maisie for having sympathy for these monsters. While he goes to collect some supplies, Sarah shows Crow the damage their ship took. Crow is still in shock about the loss of Jacob, and he decides to get the help of a sorceress named Gwen, who lives on a nearby island. His crew doesn't like this idea, but Crow makes it clear that he will do anything he can to avenge Jacob's death. The next day, Maisie wakes up to see a blue monster eating their food. She goes after it and even grabs it. However, she is walking on eggshells, and Jacob tries to take her back to safety. He doesn't want her to keep a monster as a pet, and while they're talking, he accidentally steps on many shells. Soon, a lot of little monsters are chasing them. While these little creatures are no threat to the two of them, their mother surely is. She follows them until they give back her baby. But Jacob and Maisie are still in danger because a massive crab has grabbed their boat and it's trying to eat them. Jacob is about to be swallowed when the red beast emerges from the water and gets into a fight with the crab. The crab is trying to cut its horn, but Maisie and Jacob help the red bluster defeat the crab. They are out of danger, but their boat is taking in water and they are clearly not going anywhere in it. This is when Maisie gets the idea to use the red bluster to get to a nearby inhabited island. Jacob thinks she can never make the monster listen to her instructions, but to his surprise, the red bluster is a smart being and it gives them a ride on its back. Maisie is ecstatic about what just happened, but her job is not done as she has to tell the beast where to go. When they start heading in the right direction, Jacob starts to repair the boat while Maisie proceeds to remove dozens of spears that are stuck in her new friend's body. That evening, while the two of them are sailing peacefully, Crow gets to a scary-looking island and meets Gwen, who promises to give him a poison that can kill the red bluster. She also shows him a weapon called the Hand of God, which can deploy poison into the monster's body. She warns him that he will have to pay a hefty price in exchange for these things, but to her surprise, Crow is willing to pay anything. The next day, the red beast helps Jacob and Maisie as they try to catch some fish. Jacob's starting to like the beast, and he even helps Maisie in removing the rest of the spears. He also finds a lot of fake stories in the history books and wonders if the monster even attacked humans in the first place. After seeing a storm up ahead, they take shelter inside the nostrils of the red beast as it dives into the water. From there, they can see the remains of hundreds of ships and monsters at the bottom of the ocean. This makes them realize the cost of this war, and they decide to end it. While they're beginning to like the monsters, Crow is looking for the red bluster. After noticing a swarm of small beasts, he realizes where the red bluster is heading and orders his crew to head in that direction. By the next morning, Jacob and Maisie can see an inhabited island in front of them. They will have to say goodbye to their new friend here, but Maisie doesn't want to go back to the orphanage and offers to stay with Jacob since he doesn't have any family either. But Jacob doesn't know if he can care for a child, so they decide to just go their separate ways. After reaching the shore, Jacob promises to never hurt the monsters ever again. He then releases the small blue monster into the water, while Maisie gives the red bluster a big hug. But instead of going back, the red beast catches a scent, and on the other side of a small hill, it can see the Imperator, which is loading supplies. Maisie knows that the giant beast wants to attack the ship, and she's trying to calm it down. But when a soldier shoots at the monster, all hell breaks loose. The ship fires all its cannons at the beast, but it's actually Maisie who gets caught in the chaos. Crow's prediction comes true when the monster runs straight through the Imperator and cuts it in half. It's about to eat Admiral Eric when Jacob shoots at it to get its attention. The bluster is worried to see that Maisie is injured, and it runs to check up on its new friend. But just then, the Invincible gets there and fires flares to get its attention. The red bluster is enraged, and it runs to finish off its biggest enemy. Meanwhile, Jacob notices that Maisie is bleeding. Back in the ocean, the red beast is about to pounce on Crow's ship when he fires the Hand of God, and in a flash, the red beast is defeated. Crow doesn't want the beast to die since he wants to take it back to the palace alive. So he ties the injured beast to his ship and orders his crew to head home. But just then, he spots Jacob coming towards him in a boat. While Crow is in shock, Maisie can see what happened to the red bluster, but she passes out before she can do anything. She wakes up on the Invincible, where Jacob is getting grilled by Crow, who doesn't want to believe that monsters can cooperate with humans. He wants to kill the giant red beast, so Maisie threatens him with a knife and asks him to let her friend go. But she's far too weak, and to her surprise, Jacob doesn't want to help her either. That night, Maisie is finally starting to feel better, and she begs Sarah to help her save her friend. Sarah is also starting to believe that the monsters aren't the bad guys, but she can't go against her captain's orders. The next morning, Crow is inside the capital, and he tells Jacob that the whole world will sing their praises for catching this legendary beast. While he's dreaming of glory, the little blue monster helps Maisie escape from her locked room. This is when she notices that the emblem for the royal palace is the same one she can find on the backs of all the history books. She immediately realizes that the royal family is the one that created this fake story. Angered by this realization, she climbs on top of the red bluster and starts cutting the rope around its body. Meanwhile, everyone inside the palace is amazed at what Crow has brought. To get even more praise, he decides to slay the red beast in front of everyone, but Jacob finally decides to stop him. This leads to a fight between the two of them, and Crow throws Jacob into the water. He's about to stab the beast with the lance when Sarah decides to help Maisie and uses her sword to cut down the rope. The monster immediately gets up, but it's still feeling dizzy and it ends up destroying some buildings. While the king orders his troops to eliminate this threat, Crow runs to grab another lance. However, the beast notices him and goes after him in a flash. Crow is about to get eaten, but Maisie saves his life by stopping the beast. She tells the red bluster that it needs to go back peacefully to end this war. People are in awe when the beast listens to her and lets her get on top of its body alongside Jacob. But Maisie isn't finished yet. She tells the people how the royal family created a fake story about the monsters to start this war, which has resulted in so much loss of life. After everything they've seen, the people believe her. The royal family is ordering their troops to shoot at the monster, but even the royal guard is unwilling to obey these orders. So while the royal family is running into their castle, Jacob and Maisie leave the capital with their big red friend. Maisie explains how pretty soon ships were forbidden from entering the territory of these monsters to avoid any more casualties. And while she ended up living on a farm with Jacob, the red bluster is still out there, roaming the seas. If you enjoyed that recap, I got a good feeling you'll enjoy this one too. Click on the video on your screen for more.